What's up? Welcome back to my channel, or for the first time if you're new, I'm Sylvan, and today I'm going to be reacting to Witch Hat Atelier episode 1 and 2. We've got a double episode premiere, which is exciting. Now, I know actually very little about this series, other than that it is very well loved, and that it has been very much hyped up by a lot of people, both on the internet and like in my personal life. So I'm excited to just see what exactly we are getting into here. I know that it's fantasy, and I'm pretty sure it has to do with either like some kind of magic school or, you know, just learning magic in general. But ultimately, I don't actually even know if that's 100% correct. So because of that, I honestly don't have that much to say preemptively here. So I'm just gonna get straight into it. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. Leave a comment in your thoughts. Consider becoming a channel member if you want to support me just that little bit extra. And let's get into this. Okay, how do we start this? Okay, no. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. You gotta grow into it, you gotta learn about it. Curious. Curious way to start. Also, I love it being a storybook that opens up to the first scene. Visually, that's very, very fun. I'm already intrigued. Hey there. I think that's the protagonist, based on, like, art I've seen. God, already looks beautiful. What's going on here? Washing some cloth? Yeah, okay. Huh. Ooh. Ooh, perpetually becoming fresh and clean? Huh. A very interesting way to start. Very quiet and like, hmm. That it is. Huh. An essential and handy miracle, huh? Okay. Really? Uh-huh. Can only be blessed with it. Huh. Tying back to that initial question of, is an athlete born an athlete? Is a witch born a witch? It seems... Don't think that's gonna work? Huh. So is that the question we're gonna be playing with throughout this? Yeah, I saw that coming. Oh? Ooh. Ooh, I love the wings on the, like, head and neck. That's cool. Nice use of 3D for this panning shot. Okay, Pegasus carriage. Interesting Pegasus design, I like it. A little bit of magic. Even if your, like, personal life is not filled with it, it shows up in places, huh? I love how we're moving through spaces. The way that we followed that sequence was great. Oh? Oh? A witch, perhaps? Hmm. Oh? What's going on here? That's what it seems, yes. Uh-huh. Coco, okay. Hmm. Hmm. Interesting, interesting. I've seen some images of this other guy, so I'm curious what his deal is. A love of magic. That's fair. I think that's fair. Hmm. Okay. So, a kid growing up in a town in a family of, I don't know quite right what the right term would be. It's escaping me. But like clothes makers, something like that. Word the exact term that I'm looking for is escaping me. But with a love of magic and a wish to become a witch, even though that's satisfying. Mm. Oh, he's watching very closely. Is he gonna is he gonna take her on as like an apprentice or something? Oh, this is real magic. But what truly separates it? That she does. That she does. Hmm. That book she was carrying around. Hmm. Okay. I love how we're using this storybook imagery to move in and out of scenes. Also, dear God, the color and lighting here. Ow. Wow. Hmm. Huh. I love the perspective. A magic picture book, huh? Hadn't even heard of magic. Okay. Hmm. Ooh. The things we've seen. Ooh. Everything is magic. Oh, pretty. I wonder how magic it truly is. Either way, inspires a spark of love of magic. Hmm. Something. Huh. You need to be born with it? We're going to be testing that question, I imagine. Huh. Ordinary people don't have what it takes. Hmm. And that doesn't deter her. But it didn't? Yeah, no. There's the reality of the situation and there's the dream, but I have a feeling... There's the dream. He was curious about that witch? What's going on now, though? Oh, the whole carriage got knocked over? What happened? Why did... Okay, some kids causing problems, I assume? Of course. How would it fall over that easily? Maybe it has to do with its magic? Huh. The carriage needs to be fixed. Perhaps this man will help? Yeah. A little magical fix it? The signature hat, yeah, one of the main imageries I know of this show is the conical hats. Quinfrey, was it? Okay. That of a witch? A chance to see real magic from a real witch. Oh? Yeah, ooh. Oh, I love the picture book visuals. Of course, she's not allowed to see inside. Really? I wonder why. No, I suppose not. Is there some secret to it? Okay. A secret that is kept amongst witches, not just that is hard to do, but that is actively hidden from others. Of course, they're sneaking around to try to see. Jesus, they climb fast! Of course, in doing this, she's gonna see it as well. She can't resist the temptation either, huh? And they're curtained, of course. If they're really trying to keep it a secret, a witch would not be oblivious enough to not cover the windows. Huh. Oh? Sudden wind? Okay, climbing back inside because presumably the wind was too much to climb back down from the outside. But this is going to be how she sees? What's the secret? You're gonna look. It's your dream, after all, to understand how this works. Some rune work, essentially. Visually, the show's been so good so far. Yeah. That's something anyone could do. That's something that can be learned. There's something you write? Ooh. Ooh. And of course he's gonna realize that she wasn't there and was observing, and okay, yeah. We gotta have our inciting incident. Is he gonna... Okay. Cool. She pulled it off, I guess. So magic is something you draw. Huh. Hmm. Huh. Okay. Sad, but a little guilt trippy, you know. Understandable, though. Would be fucking lonely alone, and probably is. Hmm. Hmm. Interesting initial revelation. I wonder if that's how all magic works, or if it's just how that guy's magic works. Hmm. I love how much time we're taking for these quiet, simple moments. Hmm? Okay. Something unsaid? Hmm. Unintentionally planted that seed in her mind, huh? Hmm. Yeah, it was a pen all along. Huh. They match. Yeah. I like that idea. Oh, and the ball is ink? Okay. Wow. But she's gonna learn magic. Gonna do it of her own, just trial and error. Huh. It's messy at first. Who knows if she's ever really written too much before with ink. They seem to be a fairly, you know, small town, humble life. She was more working with that, like, graphite or charcoal. Probably charcoal, you know. Hmm. But she's getting the general shapes down. Huh. Hmm. Deeply imperfect. But... yeah, either it needs to be more perfect or something more needs to be done. Something extra is involved. Oh, the circle wasn't complete. You didn't close the circle. That's a classic piece of magic. There it is. There it is. Who says you need to be born with it? Who said that? Oh my god. Yeah, I wonder how people will act when they find out. But now that you know you can do it, there's no way you're gonna stop. God, I love that shot. The night sky reflected in the window as we look into her doing magic. She's learned how to create fucking fire. Oh, no, sorry, that's him. That's him. I don't know why I thought that. Did he did he connect something? He was wondering about... Okay, she did create fire as well, but... Huh. I wonder, was that woman already? Makes sense. The more complex the spell, the bigger. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Lots of practice. Ooh, that's a oh, tracing? What the fuck are you going to replicate here? You still need a steady hand for that, but we established already that she does with her, like, cutting of cloth. What the fuck is she about to do? Oh, hi! Hi there, guy! Hi there! Ooh! Did she just blow up her house or some shit? Oh my god, the visuals. Oh, the magic circle on the bottom of the fucking feet! Oh, I love that you complete the circle by closing your feet together. Oh, I love that already, that we're already playing with it. Was that some, like, dark witch or something that was spreading, like, dark magic or something? Oh, fuck. Tragic backstory time! Oh, she's outside! She's outside! Get the fuck away! Get the fuck away! Oh my god! Forbidden magic, okay. Oh my god. That's fucking tragic, but they're doing this so beautifully. You don't need to be born with it. Keep the secret. Hmm. A reason to keep her memories. It's been the subject of her fascination her entire life. Hmm. She had multiple books. This is so fucking beautiful. The music, the visuals. Key free, yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Of course. Learn magic. Become a witch. Oh my god. Oh my god, the visuals. And this is our world? Oh my fucking god, that's amazing already! Oh my god, what a fucking first episode. That was fucking amazing. This did everything I would hope from a first episode, honestly. And we already have the second episode, which I'm going to get into pretty quickly here, but I just want to really acknowledge some of the things here. This did such a good job of using its time effectively without being fast-paced. The way things happened were methodical, slow. We saw these quieter moments, as I mentioned. We would watch as Coco climbs down a ladder, walks down the stairs, picks up her book as she's calling out to her mom about the Pegasus carriage. We'd watch the Pegasus carriage fly overhead as we circle around the top of the building. We'd watch as she struggles to draw her first magic circle. All this time was spent to really solidify us in the perspective of Coco and in this place, in this world. We spend the time to really just take it all in, is I think what it is. But at the same time, so much happens. We immediately establish with the opening lines what I imagine to be the essentially running theme of this initial part of the series, if not the entire story. No one is born what they become. Someone's profession or the role they serve is not something they are born as. It is something learned, it is something developed. This story is very directly stating experiences matter, growth matters, learning matters. It is nurture over nature. But then after this initial question of why would witches be any different, we are placed into this world where it is believed, no, you can't do magic unless you were born into it. You needed that innate talent. You need to know how to do it. But there's always that question in the back of our heads of why? Why is that the case? Is that really the case? And then by the end of the episode, we learn no, it is not. It is something learned. It is something that you can come to understand. But for some reason, the witches of this world do not want it to be learned. Do not want people to know that you can do magic. Magic is a miracle that only witches can perform, and to ordinary people, it is something they can only hope they have these blessings fall upon them, of these great magics like that of the magic pool that cleans itself. We are given a question that primes us to not trust this, as it is continually forced on us that it is the case, only for it then to be proven otherwise. It's a great initial little hook that allows us to learn about the general state of the world and thought of magic in the world, while also priming us to think, okay, what's the catch? What is the secret? What's actually going on? Which puts us perfectly in Coco's head. Coco is someone who wants to become a witch, despite not having been born with the magic. So of course we then have all this stuff of, you know, this witch comes to town, he does some magic. And I was essentially priming myself at multiple points there to be like, okay, he's gonna like take her on as an apprentice, or oh, she's gonna see the magic and get caught, and then he's gonna be like, oh, this is actually what's going on. Now that you've seen the secret, I guess I'll teach you, or whatever. But no, it keeps going further, it keeps going further. She figures it out herself after seeing what happened, seeing how magic is done, and then unleashes something horrible. It in itself isn't actually anything too crazy or original either. A lot of stories will have this kind of backstory that has this sort of tragic loss of the life you lived that you wouldn't want to leave because you'd be leaving people behind or whatever. We have that set up with the mother saying, if you left too, blah, 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 blah. So of course, if there are reasons to not go out on the globetrotting adventure to learn magic or whatever is going to happen, going to this school, becoming a witch, you know, that needs to be changed. That needs to be removed as a part of the equation. So we either kill the mom or just sort of put her in stasis. And of course, having Coco be the one who did it builds in the tragedy of it all. It builds up the mystery of who that masked woman was in that alley, because there is some kind of clear intent from that witch lady to be selling magic books and pens. There has to be a reason for her to have been doing that beyond just, you know, like making some money, because if the main true rule of witchcraft is do not let anyone learn how to do this, why would you sell all of the tools you need while actively inspiring in children and potentially others the wish to seek out magic and a love for it? It doesn't necessarily have to be malicious, especially given it wasn't a direct one thing to another of like Coco gets the book, immediately figures it out, and then this happens. It was years after. So it could be malicious, it could be otherwise. But that is a big question in my mind. And alongside that, there is the question of why is this being so carefully hidden? Is it literally just because magic can be dangerous and they don't want it spread? Because if that's the case, that's a pretty flawed idea. It will still spread in ways that you can't control. Tragedies will still happen. And in certain ways, wouldn't it be better to basically spread out information of what is dangerous about magic and how to avoid doing dangerous magic stuff? Of course, you run into some tricky stuff of like, how do you tell people what's dangerous without telling them how to do the dangerous stuff? But it is an interesting thing to consider nonetheless. And perhaps it, to some extent, has to do with the uncontrollableness of the magic that we saw. It isn't exactly clear how well magic can be controlled or how capably it can be controlled. It is entirely possible that what was going on with that one sort of ice spell that consumed the house and the mom was specifically designed as pretty much a trap that would just, once the circle is complete, activate and keep spreading until it runs out of magic or whatever, where there would hypothetically be ways to build the spell with more confines so that it could be used in a more specific way. But I don't know. That's the kind of thing we'll have to learn. Beyond those two main questions, though, initially, I now just want to once again acknowledge we are doing some great things visually, audibly, and creatively already. The music was great, the visuals were great, and the way that we're already using magic is very interesting to me. We set up the idea that magic is something drawn, that you do magic by drawing magic circles. We established some pretty basic and straightforward things. The more big and complex the circle, the more powerful the magic, and that completing the circle itself is what properly causes the magic to take effect. But having then visually very well set up this idea that you have to complete the circle, if it's not correctly set, it just won't work. We then expand it in that final sequence when Coco is being saved from the ice. And in this, we don't get it explained, we just are shown very clearly that Kefri, I think I'm getting the name right, I don't know though, has half of a magic circle on both of his shoes' soles, that if he clicks his feet together, forms the full circle, therefore completing the circle and creating a spell that seemingly propels him up, allows him to fly, whatever it may be exactly, which is immediately, simultaneously, a perfect use of the minimal amount of info we have about magic already being applied of you gotta just complete the circle, and if you have the internal parts, once you complete the circle, the magic will happen, while also expanding our knowledge of it isn't a one-time thing. If you complete the circle, the magic starts, you break the circle, it stops, you reconnect it again, it begins again. It just was a perfect way to expand how things work based on our limited knowledge, and I just love that. Beyond that, though, I just will briefly touch on Coco and Kefri, as ultimately they are sort of the two actual characters in this episode, I would say. I don't think we got the names for any other characters. Of course, there's the masked witch, but I already sort of touched on her, so I'm going to focus on these two. Kefri, I don't really necessarily have too much more to say about yet. He sort of is just this introductory sort of mysterious witch guy who is our introduction to the proper use and understanding of magic, who is then obviously going to be shepherding Coco into this world of magic, of witchcraft, whatever you want to call it. Much more so, this episode is about Coco. She is the person we are in the perspective of. She is the person we're following. She is the person we learn the most about, motivations-wise, interests-wise, capabilities-wise. And what is it that we learn? We learn that she is still young, she is very excitable, she has this passion for magic, even just the most mundane forms of magic, and that she aspired to be a witch ever since she was sold that book and wand by that masked witch. But of course, she was then faced with the reality, quote unquote, that you can't become a witch unless you have the initial talent. But she never let go of that dream, of that passion. She knew the reality of it, but she still harbored this love and dream of perhaps understanding magic, if not learning it. And that, of course, is what leads her to do that here. But at the same time, we learn she is capable already. She has a certain skill set to her. Most notably, it's in properly sort of marking the dimensions and then cutting of cloth realistically translate quite well to magic circle drawing. You need a steady hand and a good eye for sort of measurement and proportions and stuff. And it actually ties back to even the scene we get of her measuring out the dimensions and measurements of the one piece of cloth and then cutting it. We show how capable and intuitively she's able to do it, how precise she is with it. And at the end, we have Kefri saying, "This is real magic," which serves potentially two purposes. One is a hinting towards the reality of what magic is, basically stating, wow, this girl would make a great witch if she knew the secret. That realistically is sort of a big piece of what he's actually thinking in that moment, is she has the skills and talents for this. Oh well, she doesn't know the secret, I'm not going to tell her because that breaks the rule. And of course might just on top of that be a general appreciation for her talents. At the same time though, it might be hinting towards a second major theme in the story. I don't know if this is going to be the case. We'll see how it goes into the next episode and onward. But I do also recognize in that statement that there might be a theme there of magic isn't just the literal witchcraft, the fantastical miracles that are caused by the magic circle drawing. Real magic is something more mundane, but also more special. The mastery of a craft, the dedication to something, the beauty in what can be achieved just through learning and skill and talent. There are things other than miracles and literal fantastical acts of magic that are magical. And I think that is potentially something that also is being referenced there that may run throughout the series, or it might not. We'll see. But with that, I think I will move on to next episode, and we'll see what goes on there. Presumably, we're going to learn a bit more about the actual way magic is learned, if there's a magic school, something like that. I don't know. Starting with the storybook once again. I love this framing. I didn't mention it earlier during the discussion, but I love the framing of the storybook, the more storybook visuals we get at times. It's so fucking good. All right, where are we? Are we in a carriage or something? Okay. I can imagine. Where are we coming to? God, the way the landscapes are drawn is so fucking nice. Oh. Ah. Okay. Oh, OP time. But yeah, the Atelier, namesake of the fucking title. So I imagine this is where we're going to spend a lot of our time. I love how much of a storybook visual we have here. A few other characters, I imagine. Oh, what's that little guy? Already recognizing a few of these visuals. Yeah, we're already telling the story of the story. Ooh, okay. New characters. Got a glimpse of them earlier. Presumably the other students of the Atelier. Ooh. I gotta say, I really like the character designs so far. A lot of the outfits are really cool. Eve? Why did I not recognize Eve's voice earlier? I knew I recognized the voice, but I didn't realize it was Eve. Holy shit. Okay. Lots of interesting character looks. I love how all of this is like split shots through like sort of storybook like style stuff. I don't know quite how to put it. We have all these like frames and all these storybook imagery. It's great. Cool. I like that opening. And holy shit, it's fucking Eve. I love Eve. Guard briar seeds? Okay. To sort of seal and protect it? Petrified, okay. God, she doesn't even have shoes. Gee, I wonder. Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. There's no way you can blame yourself. I love how much this show is already just allowing things to be quiet. I like that as a statement. Huh. Let all your tears out, then move ahead. Aww. Yeah. Water doesn't normally work like that. Yeah. Just, I assume he's used to people in this kind of context who know how to do magic. New character already. Hi there. Who are you? Very a vapor bubble. Okay. Oh. Ooh. Okay. So it pulls water out of the air and then can be poured. Interesting. Interesting. Thank you for saying thank you. Oh no, it's never gonna stop. It's never gonna stop. Wow, we're just immediately getting to the characters, huh? Reach it? Okay. Yeah. The tools of the trade. Yep. Makes sense. She will be soon. Yeah. Ooh. Interesting effect there. They already know about it? How do they already know about it, or is it something else? Wow, news spread fast. Ooh. I love that imagery. Huh. Hmm. Yeah, Richa and Tedia. Huh. That would be appreciated. The story of magic, huh? I find it interesting how there are some differences, but the design of her clothes and her pajamas weren't actually that different. Okay, so magic was once more well known. Yeah, okay. Patterns and special ink. Hmm. What changed? Ah, yes. The classic. Hmm. Yeah. When you have a tool, it will be used. Or at least the threat of it being used always will exist. So they fucking memory wiped the world, huh? The day of the pact. Hmm. There are some flaws with that, but I understand. Hmm. Yeah, how is that defined? Anything drawn back then? Okay. Violent magic. Interesting. You'll be more afraid if you don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Really? Okay. Hmm. Okay. Even healing. To maintain the secret. Huh. Interesting. We're gonna have a lot of creative applications of, like, patterns and lines and circles here, aren't we, huh? Okay. Huh. Just changing what is seen. Yeah, a portal to another place, or... Huh. Oh? Power of Tomes. Okay. Hmm. Not that easy. I'd imagine they defend the, like, repository of all magic pretty damn well. Oh, I love the visual there. They animated that so well. Huh. The Librarian's Trial. Okay. Huh. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Can be beautiful or something amazing. Yeah. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. So okay, I'm just sort of thinking over forbidden spells still. A got? Okay. Hmm. All right. That's nice. That's quite nice. All right. Huh. Hmm. Ooh, communication device. Hmm. Hmm. Curious. Lots of pens. Is this a got? Just floating in the air. Okay. Hi there. Yeah, we once again have that, the double circle. Okay, interesting. Once again have that sort of flight spell through the feet. Yeah. Everyone's heard of you already, huh? Gee, that you're great at comforting people, I see. Ooh. Huh. Some antagonism, I see. Yeah. All right. We once again have the question of those born into it and those not. Which one is correct? Gee, I wonder. Hmm. So we have the sort of bubbly, very outgoing one, the quieter but kind one. Fair, fair. And Agat, who is sort of the loner and slightly antagonistic. Okay. Hmm. Oh my god, even just I want bread now. All the little things of how they draw, like, and animate stuff. Really? Really? Okay. Hmm. Good food every day. Okay. A pretty nice life here. Assuming you can make friends with your roommate. And of course, there is the sort of looming thing of, the mom, but, and the way that all witch society is going to view you. Ooh, the triangle pillow is fun. Don't know how practical that is, but it's fun. Not able to sleep? Yeah. The fact that she's even functioning is a lot to say about her, like, willpower. You need to become a better witch so that you can get to the Tower of Tomes to finally replicate the book, basically. Well, not replicate, but, more about doing than reading. All right. The ink wand. That's the mentality to have with it. Hmm. I love the framing of a pen as a magic tool. Jesus Christ, what happened? Okay. All right. The pattern, the ink, and okay, no, sigil center. So sigil signs an outer circle. So ring. And there's fire, water, light. Okay. So we got an elemental system going on. Size and direction. Okay. It activates. Okay. Yeah, that's big. Being able to re-explain things is proof of your understanding. Keyfree's energy is everything to me. Oh? That's how you have to start, though. Oh? Yeah, you need to connect it. That was the mistake of your first circle. Only worked because of the last little drop. Circles are hard! Yeah, the more you do it, the more intuitive it'll become. What kind of spell did she do? Oh my god! I don't think you got the direction quite right. Or the power. Oh no. No, I think they probably have a spell for it. Sure. Uh, Way too long on the one line. Yeah. And that messes with the directional, I assume? Amplified pressure, okay. I love how technical we're getting. Mm. Does he have other business to attend to? Okay. Great, the main person she doesn't get along with. Yeah. And also, as a teacher, it's good to help reinforce the peers who are ahead by making them teach others. Yeah, very much needing to be precise. Yeah. Time to get serious. Oh boy. Ooh, and we enter the picture book style. I love it. Is this how is this how ending to episodes are gonna be like done throughout the series? It feels like it's about the end of the episode. Yeah, okay. I love that as a stylistic framing of like how to end an episode. Also, I already love this. I already love this ending. Just just following her down the stairs like this, where we just have this limited visual. Also, the song is already. I already am fucking loving this series. I loved the concept of how magic works, but now we're getting really, really technical with it, and I like that. I'm very curious to see how detailed we get. Ooh, sort of like claws there. The petrification magic, of course. Hmm. Oh, and it blurs out. I love how, like, grounded this song is, almost. Oh, but then the light comes, and now she is a witch. Or at least an apprentice. I love that this is just unfiltered, like, voice and guitar. Fucking beautiful. If I said the first episode was the perfect first episode for what I was hoping for, this is perfectly what I was hoping for a second episode. Introduce us to more of what we can expect to be the main cast, introduce us more to how magic works, introduce us more to how the world works and its history. If episode 1 introduced the basic premise and the main character, Episode 2 introduces everything else. And it does it very well, I would say, very expertly, both just from a like visual, intuitive sense, and also the level of detail we go into. Because it isn't quite enough to overwhelm, but it is also just a little bit more info than we can immediately perfectly grasp on the immediate first watch through, I'd say. Because I would say I get the basic elements of everything that was said and everything that happened, but I will need to go back to get the exact elements down of like, okay, we have the sigil in the middle, the seals in between, and then the actual circle, and then we have the different elements for what the individual sigils are and what those relate to. Obviously, there has to be more complexity to the sort of sigil and seals than just that to achieve the effects that we know, because what differentiates a spell from something that like freezes your entire house and mom or petrifies it or whatever, and a spell that cools a drink or something? I don't know. What's the difference between a spell that makes a campfire, like we saw Kiefer use in episode 1, and a spell that burns down an entire like forest or whatever? Which actually also brings up another tricky question, which is the idea of forbidden magic and the definitions we get of it in this episode. What stops an ordinary conventional spell that is not harmful in any way and could actually be incredibly helpful, like that spell to basically make a campfire? What stops someone from not even changing that spell, but just holding the fire up to something and lighting it on fire? How do we differentiate a helpful spell from a dangerous, harmful? That is, I think, a very interesting question and relevant question to ask, given that the base framework we are getting of why magic is secret and why certain magic is forbidden is its danger, its intent to harm. But we of course run into that issue I was just bringing up. Intent can go beyond just the spell itself, and not every application of magic can be inherently tied to an intent. And this is analogous to the real world as well. You could have a lighter that lights a birthday candle or whatever, or some flint and steel to start a fire, and that could be used for safe things. Or, you know, you could set a forest ablaze. It's the exact same thing. Magic and technology are sort of synonymous in this case. That is very much where I'm viewing this from. And in the same way there is the other aspect of not exploring these more dangerous magics that are designed and created with these more dangerous intents. Sometimes there are discoveries that are helpful that come out of those, even if the original function and intent was horrible. For one of the most extreme examples of real world, anything nuclear started as we need a big bomb, we need to kill more people faster and harder. Oh, hey, actually you can also use this to create energy. So that very much is something I think you can apply to magic, because it effectively is synonymous in a lot of ways. But then with that in mind, leading into the history we get this idea that magic was fully accessible to everybody. People could learn it freely and develop it freely and do anything they wanted with it, so they did anything they could, including hurt and kill each other. Magic was made to harm and to kill people alongside everything else that was done with it for good. And so a small subset of witches decided this cannot stand. We need to cut off the rest of the world from magic so that only those who have refused to use it for violence will have access to it. And to continue the analogy of magic being technology, it's effectively as if a group of people saw that war was getting out of hand because people were making guns and tanks and all that stuff. Basically, like in the advent of a world war or something, a subset of people went, we need to stop people from knowing how to make technology so that only we can build it, and then somehow achieving that. Of course, with magic, it's a lot easier to explain how they achieved it, but you know, it's similar in the idea of basically the restriction of knowledge, the restriction of understanding of an advancement. But ultimately then we once again get back to the question of who is the right person to decide what is and isn't forbidden, what is and isn't dangerous. The example I've been almost constantly using here is that of fire spells, because fire is inherently dangerous, but it is one of the things we most fundamentally tie conceptually to human advancement. Fire is something that is often feared or seen as dangerous, as destructive, that kind of thing, but it is also what enabled like early humans to, you know, learn and develop, and learning it in the first place, we're running into this thing of, is restriction of knowledge ever truly a good thing? And is restriction of knowledge the right thing? I might be jumping ahead beyond what the series is trying to have me ask at this point, but I would not be surprised if we start asking some of those questions more directly later in the series. Or possibly we won't. Possibly this will stick much more closely to the sort of message that Kiefer gives partway through the episode, that learning is special and learning spells that are not harmful is something great and amazing because it can bring great happiness to us. It can be something that is beautiful. Perhaps we will just focus on the beauty of learning and of what magic can achieve that is good. Perhaps that'll be the case. But once again, if we are focusing on that idea of the beauty of learning, the restriction of knowledge is a restriction of learning. And fundamentally, Coco is finding herself in a position in this series that she is an outsider, someone who was not supposed to have this knowledge, someone who used magic to do harm, not intentionally, but that is from a literal, like, facts perspective, what she is, who she is, to the perspective of other people in this world of magic. So she fundamentally, by her very existence of knowing about magic and learning it now, despite not having been born into it, fundamentally she stands as an example of what the answer to the question from episode 1 is, of why does it have to be different? Why do you have to be born into magic to learn magic? And simultaneously asking the question, why must this be restricted? Of course, horrible things can be achieved with magic that is forbidden. We see that in episode 1. It is the entire reason anything here is happening. But ultimately, the point I'm getting at here is Coco is already, as a character and protagonist, serving as contest to the status quo of this world. And that very easily could extend much more further out to a much more grander idea here. And I'm very curious to see if that is what we will achieve here, what will be expressed and explored in this series, or if it will be much more just exploring the beautiful side of all of this, without touching on the more sketchy side of stuff. With all that moral, thematic, analogy stuff out of the way, though, I do want to briefly touch on some character stuff and some more just of the logistical stuff we learned. I already touched on the magic circle things a little. I like how specific we're getting of, like, oh, your line was too long here, caused higher pressure and directional, like, application of your spell, so that's why it became a water jet that blasted your roommate. That kind of tactile logistical stuff I like. But character-wise, Coco largely is standing strong with what we had learned from episode 1, but of course is in a different circumstance now. She is much more out of her element, but we are seeing once again her passion to learn, her passion and wish to understand magic and keep learning, and now her motivation to do it even more so to save her mother if she can. And on top of that, we then immediately have the contrast with her roommate. Agathe immediately makes it clear in their first appearance that they are much more believing of the current status quo of the world. We have not gotten their specific thoughts on the nature of forbidden magic, but we have gotten her thoughts on Coco's role in all of this. Coco is someone who has not grown up learning magic, has not been forced to take all these tests to make sure that she knows magic well enough that she can even stand here as an apprentice. She has been let in despite effectively having done the biggest taboo of the magic world. Agathe is a character much more based in their understood version of reality. They're not completely cut off from the possibility of being proven wrong, as they don't say that Coco will never achieve anything. They say, you need to prove yourself. You have not done that. We had to prove ourselves to get to where you now stand. Therefore, I will not acknowledge you until you prove yourself. Which inevitably is very aggressive and antagonistic in a lot of ways, but also at the same time isn't necessarily mindlessly cruel, I guess is a way to put it. And that extends out to how they talk about Coco's life, basically. She says to Coco, sorry about what happened to your mother. There's no way you're gonna save her. So we immediately are getting here the acknowledgement that that is a sad thing that happened. It's horrible that that happened. I don't want that to have happened to you, but we gotta face the facts here you are not saving your mother is gone. In Agat's view of the world and understanding, that is not possible, so she will not acknowledge the possibility. That is the read on Agat I get so far, which is interesting. It works well as a rival slash sort of obstacle for this early part of the show. I imagine over time, as Coco proves herself, their relationship might become a little less antagonistic, a little bit less awkward, but we'll have to see. Potentially, the hang-up will sort of consistently maintain, and there will never be enough for Coco to prove herself, but we'll have to see. Meanwhile, the other two students are a cute little pair. So far, we've really only seen them as a pairing, largely. We have not gotten nearly as much about them characterization-wise outside of their initial appearance. To get into them a little bit more, though I don't necessarily have too much to say about them yet, Tetia's cute, she's fun, she's very outgoing and excited about just everything and sort of showing off. And I think the main notable thing about her is that she seems to like doing things that get a thank you from the person she does it for. It very much seems like she is that very sort of nice, cute, outgoing person who does things for others because they feel good when people are thankful to them, which is just a great starting point for a character that is obviously meant to be a much more sort of comforting presence, one that, though maybe a little overwhelming, can be a person that Coco can become friends with. Meanwhile, Risha is very much that quiet kid, inherently don't know much about them yet because they don't talk much and they're very quiet. But it's very clear that her and Tetia have known each other for a while, are good friends, know how to sort of move around each other quite well. And realistically, I imagine that probably those two and Coco will sort of become the main trio, while Agat is sort of the loner who is a bit of a rival. Very much it feels like the characters are sort of setting up to be that sort of classic dynamic. Then, surrounding all of this, of course, is Kifri, their teacher, the person who introduced us to magic in this show, and I love his energy. I love how he introduces different aspects of magic. He seems to be a pretty good teacher, the way he, explained things to Coco off screen and on screen, and then had her sort of repeat it back, make sure she understood. Even if she felt overwhelmed with the knowledge and stuff, she was able to explain it back, and that's a good sign of her actually having processed it. And then even the thing of having Agat then teach a little bit to Coco. As in the episode even I mentioned, if he's occupied, that is a way to have the more capable and further along students solidify their knowledge and understanding by explaining it to someone else, by teaching someone else. Teaching someone how to do a skill you are learning can be one of the best ways to solidify that knowledge, I feel. But then, of course, at the same time, it is meaning that the student that needs more help is actually also still learning even if you're occupied. So they seem to be a good teacher and stuff, and they seem to get along with Coco well. They seem to be a bit of a like mind in the nature of the loving of learning and of magic. So I imagine that he will be a great mentor to her in that sense. Alongside this, though, sort of underneath it all, is this interesting little thing that it doesn't seem like it's just as simple as he takes Coco in and that's that. The story of what happened with Coco and what Coco did has already spread throughout the witch society. And actively he was allowed to do this, allowed to take her in because of the approval of someone else that we see him communicating with on one side of the conversation at one point in the episode. So inevitably, I imagine that probably Kifri is going to be having to deal with a lot of logistics and sort of walking on eggshells to not upset the rest of the witch world by having effectively taken in someone who has, to some degree, memorized forbidden magic. Because that's the other big thing, is the reason Coco hasn't had her memory erased is because she knows the book inside and out that contains forbidden magic. So I very easily could see a version of events where other major people in the witch world or society see it as especially a reason for her to not be allowed to keep her memory, not be allowed to learn magic, because she effectively has forbidden knowledge in her head. That if she learns how to apply it, then she could be very dangerous. The exact thing that they were trying to avoid. Of course, that is a perspective that would require you to not know what kind of person Coco is. She's made a mistake and now she's wanting to learn from it. And oh, hey, there's this other aspect of, sure, if you didn't hide this information of how magic works, some people would use it for evil, but also maybe you wouldn't have accidents where people just sort of curiously playing with something they don't understand, accidentally destroying their home and killing their mom, basically. Inevitably, it's a complicated issue and sort of a double-edged sword. I'm not trying to say one way or another that this restriction of knowledge is fundamentally a bad thing. It's trying to do something good. It is, of course, then just the question of, is it succeeding at that? And I feel like we could get a lot of interesting stuff with the rest of the witch society questioning what the best way to go about this is, and Coco and potentially Keyfree in protecting her questioning if they are right in their opinions. If the way that the general society of witchcraft or whatever views the hiding of this knowledge, if that is a good thing. But yeah, with that, I think I've covered things about as much as I want to. Just as like a couple final touches, I want to just emphasize how much I love how much the story is giving space to things, I think is the way I want to put it. We're given time and space to just watch as something happens. We don't even need that much dialogue, we don't need music. It's just we watch something happen, we watch a character move through a space, we watch a character struggle with something. We just let these things happen, and that alone serves as characterization or mood setting. The way we walk into a room and all we are hearing is the voices of the characters and the sounds of their steps, them setting bags down onto tables. It really places us into the space more than it would if there was a big in-your-face song at the time. Of course, there are moments where you can have big grand tracks to pull you in more, but the fact that it is confident in these quieter moments, in these more tactile moments, is so nice. It's something that I think Frieren does very well, to sort of tie back to the last show I was reacting to. But in a way, actually, these first couple episodes are doing it almost stronger than Frieren on average does, I feel. I feel like Frieren has some other strengths and other things that it's doing, while this show, Witch Hat Atelier, really has honed in on a couple of these aspects. The love of magic, the love of learning, and the material feel of everything. And that's something I really, really appreciate, and I'm excited to see more of. There's a lot of ways I think this series could go. It could be very much a sort of slice of life as we're learning magic. It could be much more of a sort of philosophical drama almost, if we really dig into these ideas of, is it okay to limit learning if it is an attempt to stop harm from coming to people? What is the alternative? That kind of thing. It could be a bit of a comedy at times. We already have some goofy moments. It could be a bit coming of age. It could get pretty action-y, sort of shonen-y if they want to go in that direction. But I sort of doubt that side of things, given that forbidden magic is harmful magic. So unless we run into mages, or witches rather, that are going against the sort of status quo and are using forbidden magic and somehow we have to protect against it, probably that's not the angle we'll take, but technically we could if we run into a lot of mages using forbidden magic. So really, all we've done at this point is opened the door to pretty much anything, but done so very, very well and set just everything we need for a great series, I think. And I think another piece of it that I want to emphasize that is tied into what I was talking about earlier of how sort of detailed and specific we were getting with the magic is how particular the designs of things feel. There's a lot of uniqueness in a lot of designs and aesthetic pieces, and I think it ties in a lot with that much more specific and to an extent grounded way magic is done, because pretty much with how we've set things up, whenever I see a circle or a semicircle or anything that could become a circle or any kinds of patterns even, really, my mind is immediately going, oh, is that a component to a spell? Is that going to achieve some kind of magic? One thing that I didn't comment on in the episode but noticed is that even just like in Keyfree's design, there is his sort of cloak or whatever that is clasped with a semicircle that has some patterns in it, and I immediately, when seeing that, went, oh, wait a minute, maybe there's another semicircle that he could, like, attach onto it and it achieves a spell. Don't know what that spell would be, but that's the kind of thing that my mind is going to, given how magic has been set up in this series. I'm thinking about the physical application and design of clothing, of architecture, of stuff like that, to go, how does this interact with magic. And even if it's unintentional, how could you turn something that is mundane into magic? We have the conical hats that are just these circular cones. What if, say, you had like some pattern drawn on your head or whatever, and then if you align your hat correctly, it forms the circle that closes the loop on the spell and casts a spell? That's maybe possible. So there's a lot of ideas that immediately I'm having here just from looking at the designs after having been told how magic works. And that is so fucking exciting. But with that, I think I will close things out here, because though I could keep sort of going in all kinds of directions here, I think I've got all the main stuff I want to say. So with that, I'm super excited to get to future episodes in future weeks throughout this season, and I hope you all enjoyed, because I certainly did. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and very special thanks to all of my channel members, including Amorphosilica, Dweller, Pokelove101, and Unusual Echo at the normal tier, and Kano Nano at the cool person tier. Really appreciate your support, as always, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye!